What's up, everybody? Pokemon! That's what's up. It's been a while since I've done a Pokemon-themed video. Now, I saw this video in my recommended section this morning, and it really intrigued me. So much so that I decided to do a reaction of it. And, well, here I am. So, there's this guy on YouTube called Here's Wally. Go ahead and check him out and subscribe to him if you will. But he just made a video where he created a Pokéball for every single Gen 1 Pokemon, every Kanto Pokémon, I should say. Now, I did watch his video. It's about an 18-minute video overall. Really good. I really liked it. And he sort of explains the concept that he created this brand new Pokeball called the Ditto Ball, which, as soon as it's thrown on any given Pokemon, it immediately changes its appearance to sort of mimic that Pokemon's appearance so that you'd know which Pokemon it is in whatever Pokeball you threw it in. Sort of like, if this was in the real world, if this was a practical thing, like, because, you know, always in animated, like, all the Pokeballs kind of look identical, and you kind of have to wonder how the characters know exactly which Pokemon is in which Pokeball. Yeah, it makes sense in the games, sort of, but if this was a real practical thing, it wouldn't. So having your Pokeball literally take on the appearance of the Pokemon inside it is a really great idea, and again, I decided to do a reaction of it because I watched it all the way through. I've seen he made actual physical designs of each Pokeball and posted it on his channel, and some of them I really liked. Some of them were really good. Some of them not so much. I had notes, and I felt like, why not just say my thoughts on each and every one of these 151 Pokeballs and just put it out there in the world, and hopefully, if he's listening, maybe he can just, you know, take some of it to heart, and hopefully this reaction video will get this video to more and more people, because I really want more and more people to watch his stuff, and therefore, hopefully, maybe someday in the future, he will make more of it. Maybe, obviously, for the Johto region and beyond. So, let's just get started. I did start about a minute ahead because I skipped the introduction. I just want to focus on the actual designs of the Pokeballs themselves, and also I muted the video itself to just avoid any complications with music and editing and whatnot. So it's just me reacting to each and every one of those Pokeballs, and if you want, you can also watch that video with me. So here we go, starting with Bulbasaur. Hold on, where is it? There we go, Bulbasaur. I liked it. I liked the design. I mean, this is pretty much a gold standard. This is this is the one that I would like. The Ivysaur, also really perfect. The sculpturing is really good also. Venusaur, I think it went a little too far with the design of the flower. I think it would be better if it was just printed. Now this I like. I love Charmander, and just the patterning works on this thing. I love what he did with Charmeleon with the single horn. That's another great design. Now, here's my first problematic one. I think the wings are a bit too much. I think these could just be printed and maybe make the horn on the back a little shorter. Squirtle's great. This is great. This is a great design for a Pokeball. I would definitely buy that one. Unfortunately, though, the Wartortle one isn't that much of a difference. And unfortunately, even more so, I think the Blastoise one is going a bit too far. Seems a little too Bakugan-y, in my opinion. I'm not a fan of Bakugan. Caterpie looks great. I love the rings and the little bulges. I would have added the red thing at the front. The Metapods. Okay, I think I would have done without the spikes, but that's just me. Butterfree looks amazing. I love the printed wings on the back. This is what he should have done with Charizard. And it kind of looks like a Master Ball. Weedle also looks really good. I love the horn. I love the little bulges on the side, on the bottom. Unfortunately, though, Kakuna is a little underwhelming. I would have expected at least to show the pattern on the bottom half of the Pokeball. Beedrill, though, I think was funny with the antennae. kind of unnecessary when you think about it, but it's funny. Pidgey is really great. I would have made the hairdo a little smaller so it doesn't bulge out from Pokeball. And Pidgeotto and Pidgeot are more or less the same. I would have maybe tightened out the top and the bottom a little more. The mohawk on Pidgeot, you can kind of start to see the problem with it. It's a little too bulgy. I would have just made it printed, like the Rattata one. And you know, I think I would have made the whiskers a little bit more printed. But I love the teeth mark. It's kind of unnecessary. Same thing goes with Raticate. Like, I think the whiskers even more so is more of a problem. Spearow and Fearow I did not like at all. Like the spikes, and you'll see it here on Fearow as well. The spikes and the mohawk, that's too much. Too much. I think the coloring was enough. Moving on. Yeah, Ekans I think looks really good. Like, this is a perfect design for the concept that he's going for. Same thing goes for Arbok. Didn't quite understand the bulginess of the back side of it, but whatever. The printed pattern looks great. Pikachu is problematic. I think, again, I would have made the ears more printed. And you're going to see that with a lot of Pokemon. I did not like the Raichu one at all. I think the ears were a bit too much. The tail's a bit too much. This is great. Sandshrew is amazing. That's incredible. Unfortunately, as you'll see in just a minute, Sandslash is all over the place. The spike, just try to... I hope you make these a little less spiky if he goes for another round. The one from Nidoran still it makes sense, but it gets worse for the rest of the line with all these bulging spikes. Remember, you gotta be able to hold the Pokeball in your hand as you're throwing it. And what you see here that he did with all of the Nidos, yeah, the spikes just makes the Pokeball itself less practical. Love the printing. I love the pattern and the coloration. But all these extra spikes, I think, are unnecessary. Just the one horn would have been enough, in my opinion. This is going a little faster than I had hoped. Hopefully I'll get all my words out at once. The Clefairy and Clefable one, I did not like at all. Again, it seems a little too Bakugani. And it's hard to tell the difference between Clefairy and Clefable. And you kind of see where I'm going with this, the problem with the patterns and stuff. For Vulpix, I would have removed the tail, but just kept the top all printed. The Ninetales one, I think, is even worse. I think all my least favorite ones are the fire types. I'm just going to say right here, spoilers. Jigglypuff, again, it looks a little too similar to the Clefairy one. Again, I would have kept the bulges, but just removed the ears and kept the swirl. Same thing with Wigglytuff here. The wings are even worse, in my opinion. Zubat, I think, is great. I would have preferred if the ears were just printed, the wings were printed, the ears were smaller, but I loved the teeth effect at the middle section. But as I said earlier, with the wings, yeah, with Golbat, it's even worse. Oddish, again, I would have kept the leaves printed. It doesn't need to bulge out from the Pokeball like that. Just look at Gloom. Gloom looks incredible, and it actually redesigns the overall shape of the Pokeball really nicely. And I think Vileplume took the same inspiration from Gloom, but went a little too far. I would have removed the top half of it, but I mean, I'm not a Pokeball designer, so what the hell do I know? Again, unfortunately, you run into the same problem with Paris, with the bulging mushrooms, but Parasecto is one of my favorites. I love the redesign of the shape of the top of the half. It sort of looks like the mushroom. Venonat, just like Butterfree, looks perfect, but I would have removed those spikes at the top. Not so sure if I would have done the same for Venomoth, because it actually does work really well, and looks really good on this Pokeball. This is amazing. The Diglett one is great. I would have kept a little bit of pink at the middle for the noses. Unfortunately, because it's Diglett, the two bulging ones at the top just don't look good. The Meowth one, I would have just kept, the whole thing printed. Again, it doesn't need to bulge out. And the Persian one, I think, looks better. Just remove the ears and keep the whiskers printed, and keep the bulging red spot in the middle. The Psyduck one, great. This is what I'm saying. It doesn't need to bulge out. It can just be printed. Because look, it falls apart when it gets to the Golduck one. Just remove the spikes and just keep the red spot in the forehead. The Mankey one, I don't think it was much you could have done with. But, I mean, I don't like it, but that's not really the designer's fault. We'll probably just a little bit better. Just keep the bulging parts at the bottom and remove everything else. And also you got the the vein thing. Growlithe one, if you remove the spikes on the top and the hair, it looks perfect. Arcanine, again, it's a bit too much. It's the same thing as the Senseless one. And continuing on the theme that of me liking the fire-type ones, for Poliwag I would have removed the tail, keep it printed, but the rest looks great. And it gets even better with Poliwhirl. Unfortunately, with Poliwrath is where it falls apart for me personally. But then again, there's nothing else he could have done with this design to make it look different from the previous one. So it really isn't the designer's fault. Abra, again, I would have removed the ears completely and just kept the printing and the colors. This is a perfect example of what I'm saying here. If you remove the ears and keep the printing of the star on the forehead, the Kadabra one could have looked great. And the same thing I would say with the Alakazam variant. Like, keep the mustache printed, remove the ears and spikes. I actually do like the way these 3 stripes look on the Machop one. That's really, really cool. I think it looks better on the Machoke. But again, it would have kept those 3 lines a bit smaller to fit with the theme of the Pokeball. And unfortunately, again, there really isn't much you can improve upon this design with the Machamp. Bellsprout, I really enjoyed. I would have removed the stem, but kept the leaves there at the bottom. Unfortunately, the Weeping Bell one is, I mean, it's bad, and the Victory Bell one is even worse. Well, might be one of my least favorite ones. But again, that's just me. That's just a personal opinion. I don't like when he overly sculpted the sides of them. The Tentacool one looks really good. Almost looks like a Great Ball and a Master Ball put together. Unfortunately, it falls apart with Tentacruel. I would have removed the claws thing at the bottom. But again, what else was he supposed to do here with this? I love the Geodude one. I love the texture of it. Just if you would have removed the fingers at the bottom, great. And I think the same thing continues on with Graveler. And when you get to Golem, look at this. This is incredible. This is a Pokeball I would want to have. I would buy this if I had the money right now. Again, with Ponyta, and you're going to see this a lot, and even more so with Rapidash, when he tried to sculpt the flames, I mean, it looks good, but I think it defeats the entire purpose of the concept. I did not like when he put flames on these. With the same thing I say with Slowpoke, just remove the ears, keep them printed. You already have everything you need. And with the shoulder on the back of Slowbro, yeah, I can kind of tell why it's impractical. Magnemite looks great. One change I would have added is just try to make it look like the middle part is the eyeball. Unfortunately, same thing with Diglett. There's not much you can do with the Magneton one. Farfetch'd looks good, and that's the only time I will ever say that about Farfetch'd. Unfortunately, he lost me with the Doduo and Dodrio. I think Dodrio might be my least favorite out of all of them. Again, the bulginess, and just, you're supposed to reference the Pokemon subtly, not overly superimpose them on the Pokeball. And I think the Seal one looks better. Just, make the fins a bit more printed, and just keep the horn. And it works great for Seal and Dugong in this context. This thing. This is incredible. I love it. I love it. Unfortunately, though, there's not much difference you can do with the evolved version. But, I mean, he did what he could with the resources he had at his disposal. Oh yeah, the Shelter one, I did not like. It looks exactly like the Pokemon. It's not supposed to do that. And it works even worse with Cloyster. I think Cloyster might be my least favorite. Ghastly looks great. Again, just remove the eyes, make them more printed, and you've got a solid Pokeball design right here. Unfortunately, there really isn't much you can do with Haunter, so I don't like it, but again, I don't fault him for it. And just look at this. I mean, it's just like Pokemon itself in miniature form. I didn't like it. This is great. Amazing. I loved it, especially, and I wouldn't even remove the horn on this one. The Drowsy and Hypno one, where he's really lost me again. Just, again, remove the ears and the over-bulginess of the nose. I get what he's trying to do here, but it's completely unnecessary. Maybe with Hypno, just make the ears smaller. Now, with Krabby, unfortunately, if you remove all the stuff that you don't like about the designs and Kingler, you're kind of left with the regular Pokeball. So I get why he added the spikes and the shapes. I'm just saying I didn't like it. And speaking of looking exactly like a Pokeball, I like what he did with Voltorb. Again, there's not much you can do here, But with Electrode, this is just the best. Maybe you just add a drawing of the eyes, or the eyebrows at the top, but I mean, that's just me. Again, the Execute one looks great. I love it, but unfortunately, as with a lot of these, the evolved form is where he loses me again. With overly sculpturing the thing. It's great sculpture work, I'll give him that, but I mean, just look at the Cubone one. It goes over the top, I think, with some of these. And the same thing, I think, with Marowak. I love the printing on the bottom side. The top side is where he loses me. And you know what? I kind of like the Hitmonlee one. I might even remove the bulges on the bottom, but that's just a minor nitpick. Unfortunately, he loses me again with the Hitmonchan. Again, remove the spikes and the skirt. You got a solid Pokeball design. Lickitung just looks bad. But I mean, that's Lickitung for you. If you remove the tongue, perfect. Now this is the Pokemon specifically made for this kind of concept. Which is why it works so well. Unfortunately, as with a lot of the Gen 1 ones, he just added another part of it. It doesn't really work. With Rhyhorn, I'd remove the two bulges at the back and keep the horn on the front. Same thing, I think, with Rhydon. And again, solid Pokeball design. Not a fan of Chansey, though. Not a fan of how the hairs end up looking. Not for me. This looks great. As goofy as it is, it looks great. I love the Tangela version. But then he loses me again with putting ears on the Pokeball for Kangaskhan. And doing nothing for the little mini Kangaskhan at the pouch. And unfortunately, he loses me again with the Horsey and Seadra. Again, remove the spikes. The rest of the Pokeball looks perfect. Same thing with Seadra. Did I say Seadra for the first one? No, that's Horsey. Sorry, my bad. And again, just remove the fins. Keep the horn on the top. Great Pokeball design. And it works just as well for Seeking because the horn is in a different location. And it's got different colors. So again, just remove the fin on the top and the bottom. Staryu one, again, remove the bulginess and the over-sculpturaliness of the thing. And that's a great looking Pokeball. Same thing for Starmie, I think. Just too spiky. You can't hold it in your hand properly. Mr. Mime one, again, just remove the hairs at the top, make them printed, and then it looks like a solid design. Same thing with Scyther, too many spikes on it. I don't like too many spikes on a Pokeball. Ironically, Jinx, I think, is the best looking out of all of them. Again, just keep them all entirely printed, no bulginess. Maybe I'm willing to make an exception for the Electabuzz one, just remove the hairs, and make the bulgy ones at the top. And again, I did not like the way Magmar one came out. I didn't like the attempt to make flames on it. The Pinsir one, I think the horns are too big. Otherwise, pretty solid design. Same thing I would say with Tauros. I get the three tails, but again, it doesn't need to be bulgy. It can be printed. The Magikarp one, oddly enough, looks great. Just remove the arch in the middle, and you've got a pretty solid design for a Pokeball. With Gyarados, though, is where it falls apart. Again, I think the whiskers are a bit too much. And Lapras suffers from the same problem as Cloyster. But again, there's not much you can do with that design of the Pokemon. Ditto looks great. I love the way the Ditto Pokeball came out looking like. Unfortunately, the Evolutions one, I did not like any of them. I did not like the way the ears looked. I think the color in the middle section is too much. Gets even worse with Vaporeon and Jolteon and Flareon. Just, again, it's too bulgy. Just remove all the bulginess stuff and you get a pretty solid Pokeball design. Like, if it was printed, I think it would have looked a lot better. So yeah, all four of these are a no-go for me. I'm sorry, unfortunately. The Porygon one might be my favorite of all of them because it's so unique. And I love the different shaping of it. Lord Helix looks pretty solid. Again, just remove the tentacles and keep the rest of the pattern as it is. And the same thing I would say for Omastar. And maybe keep the horns at the top. But that's just me, I think. Kabuto, I don't really have much notes. Like, other than what I've already said about any of the other ones. Kabutops is just... It loses me with all these annoying spikes that keep popping up. And same thing for Aerodactyl, I think. Again, just keep it printed and you got a solid design. You don't need the bulginess. Snorlax, I think, is a little too gimmicky. But if you just keep the coloring of it without the ears, it looks perfect. Articuno, not a fan, again, with the bulginess and overly designing the wings. And it gets even worse with Zapdos, which I guess you can say the same thing about actual Zapdos itself. And then Moltres, again, with trying to design flames. It's a novel idea. It looks great. It just doesn't look good on this Pokeball. And again, just keep the white dot at the center and remove the fins, or in this case, the wings. Solid design. Keep the orb at the bottom for Dragonair and the horn. And, solid design. Same problem with Charizard here for Dragonite, with the wings and the whiskers. Too much. Mewtwo, I think, is okay. It's passable. And unfortunately, the last one, Mew, not a fan. I did not like the way that the tail wraps around the whole thing. And again, just remove the ears. Now, we've now reached the end of the video, and I think you pretty much, by this point, can kind of tell what my tastes are like with these Pokeballs. First of all, they all look great. They all look amazing. If they're all, like, physical, existing stuff, and he didn't CGI them, and he actually made and sculpted all of these, kudos to Here's Wally. They look amazing. Amazing craftsmanship, great work, but, again, my personal tastes, I did not, sorry, I did not like the overly designed ones, the ones where parts just sort of bulge out of the Pokeball. If you actually look at actual Pokeballs in the games, the subtlety is what makes them so special. Like, with Pokeballs that actually do have parts bulging from them, they never go too over the top with it. Not with a Timer Ball, or Great Ball, or Master Ball, or Heavy Ball, or any other kind of balls that have these sculpted parts as part of the actual ball itself. So, again, I think if he sticks to more printing of certain patterns and elements of a Pokemon, like wings or facial features, let's call it that way, I think he's really onto something. But the overly sculpted ones, unfortunately, do not work for me. But that's just me. Maybe it'll work better for you if you're watching this. And again, here's Wally. I'll leave a link to this video to his video that I just watched and reacted to in the description of this video. Please go there and subscribe and help him out. He's almost at 1,000 subscribers. The guy does great work, and hopefully, if more people check his video out, he will do a part 2 of it for the Gen 2 Mons. So here's hoping for that. In any case, yeah, that's just me. These are my thoughts on every single Pokeball These are my thoughts on a Pokeball for every Kanto Pokemon, and hope to see another one sometime in the future. I'll be keeping my eye out for this one. So until the next time, everyone, I'll just put my Ash Ketchum hat back on, which is way too small for me. And thank you for watching, and gotta catch 'em all. Goodbye! Hi there! Thank you for watching the video. And if you enjoyed it, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and tell your friends. I'll see you next time.